kind of a purity of excitation combined with spiritual enthusiasm and a profound sense of awe. Not that people should think this will happen or that will happen. I think those kind of conceptualized expectations are more of an obstacle than a benefit, but just a profound sense of spiritual awe at the pure magic of the enlightenment energy as embodied in the power places. As a leader of a group, naturally, I always hope that at least half the group will achieve deeper levels of spiritual understanding through the pilgrimage. I think the challenges that arise from a combination of hardship, altitude, traveling through unknown lands associated with enlightenment, all of these factors come together to, in such a way as to encourage people to unfold with a deeper understanding of themselves, the world in which we live, and in general their purpose in being, the nature and function of their life. And I think generally over half do achieve that through pilgrimage. Of course, pilgrimage has many other benefits. There's great healing comes from it, from everything from deathly diseases to inner depression and sadness to a sense of vagueness and lostness, which adversely affects so many modern peoples. These and many, many other maladjustments, if you will, are very often healed through pilgrimage. Every place had its own great inspiration for me personally. The first step into the Jokang on every pilgrimage is like a rebirth. Everything that has happened in this life falls away and life is born anew with total freedom and joy, light and laughter. And certainly the Jokang for me is always my favorite place. It doesn't matter how many times I go or how many other exotic places. The Rinpoche, an evening in the Rinpoche with the monks talking about their personal lives and their personal wishes and aspirations. Again, very, very wonderful heart experience. It was especially wonderful watching Khenpo Tashi in these places that he'd always dreamed of visiting, and particularly when we went to Samye and Mindruling, how every chapel carried a whole chapter of his life in it, educationally, spiritually. But of course the highlight and the grand finale in terms of the outgoing aspect of the pilgrimage, the Oracle Lake. I think it certainly ranks as one of the 5 or 6 great wonders on this planet. Myself, as an engineering student in my youth, I could only marvel at the great mystical force that caused that lake to arise in such dramatic fashion. Those mountains as a ring around the lake, and then the ridge in front, which 17,600 feet, and one sits perched on a ridge no more than 2 or 3 feet wide, dropping on both sides hundreds of feet. Just the natural wonder of it, combined with this idea from Padmasambhava in the mid-8th century, and then this idea that merely being there would guarantee a life revelation. And sitting there with other peoples who had no direct knowledge of that sacred phenomena, and watching one by one as people's entered that state of revelation. That particular cave with Tibetans is considered one of his half-dozen most important meditation caves, because it's the first one he lived in for any length of time after leaving his guru Marpa. He lived with Marpa for many years, receiving his training, and it came the point that Marpa said, "I've taught you everything I can teach, and now is the time for you to retreat by yourself into the mountains and meditate and meditate some more." Milarepa therefore left Lotak and Marpa of the southern hills and wandered and came upon that cave. And he and my personal favorite of his disciples, Rinpoche, meditated there for 3 years. Milarepa's cave is fabulous. Myself, of course, if I were to do a retreat there, I think I would choose Rinpoche's cave. It's a smaller, more compact, and has a great meditative energy about it. Milarepa's, of course, is very fabulous as well. And for every member of the group, I think everyone knew of Milarepa well. Many people had read his biography. Many had read some, if not all, of his collection of mystical songs and stories. So it was very auspicious for us to be able to stay there for that day. We had hoped to sleep in the cave, or for some members to sleep in the cave, but unfortunately, even though the monks were open to the idea, the local regulations didn't permit it, and perhaps for a good reason, because if one allows travelers to stay in places of that nature, there may be some security concerns from the point of view of maintaining the sanctity of the place, as well as, of course, the preciousness of the images that are in them. But nonetheless, we were able to meditate there twice, and the monks were very kind in sitting with us, chanting with us, and so forth. And I think certainly it was a great upliftment for many, many of our group members. Pilgrimage to the power places is indeed one of the most fortunate undertakings of the human species. All spiritual traditions of the world have encouraged it and seen its benefits since time immemorial. Tibet has the greatest number of pilgrimage places, perhaps because it was the most intensely spiritual in terms of pure statistics of the population. Throughout their lives, I think, of the 100 most beneficial things those peoples will do through their entire lives, I think that this pilgrimage is certainly one of those 100, and probably one of the top 10 of those 100. But to extract the full value, I think it is important to contemplate, meditate, reflect, and digest. A major problem we have in the West is we have a ton of input data, but only an ounce of digestive appreciation. We don't need more information and more data. We need to fully digest, access, and integrate the data, the knowledge, the information we get. In terms of the enlightened places, the energies from each of those has the capacity to bring people's great inner joy, happiness, and transformation. Whether or not any individual will get that will depend really on their ability to later bring it to the fore of their consciousness and, as the Tibetans say, treba, blend it into the continuum of their experience.